Good afternoon. My name is Justin Schaefer, and today I'm going to be doing my final oral presentation. Kind of the two big ideas of the course that I learned throughout the course would be how to do your job as a corrections officer very efficiently, ethically, and legally, because I feel like a lot of corrections officers that don't do their job correctly always set themselves up for failure and are always setting themselves up for either getting fired, reprimanded, written up. So just kind of do your job ethically and don't really do anything illegal during your job. The next big idea that I learned from the course is how to ensure the safety of your inmates, because that's kind of your bottom line, is to keep the inmates safe and to keep yourself safe and your staff safe, because a lot of the staff and a lot of the inmates have families to get back to, and they're kind of relying on your professional ways to do your job diligently, to make sure everybody goes home at the end of the day, and to make sure inmates are safe. So, yep. For the two big ideas that you discovered while working through the scenarios would be how to be a corrections officer and kind of like what it's like to be in the shoes of a corrections officer. With these scenarios, it taught me a lot. It kind of opened up my eyes, talking about medium, max, minimum security people in prisons and in jails. I've never really thought about it that way. I mean, to me personally, I wouldn't want to be in that situation. So, yeah, the first big idea that I learned was kind of how to be a good corrections officer, kind of like what I was going back to with the big ideas for the for something in detail about the two big ideas that I discovered while working through scenarios is how to do your job ethically and how to do your job efficiently, and to keep, kind of like I said at the beginning of this video, doing your job correctly, doing it the ethical way, and pretty much just serving your fellow inmates to do your job, because you signed up for a job to do that job, to keep inmates safe and to be a good corrections officer. And you also want to keep your bottom line safe, which is your fellow staff mates and your fellow, just everybody pretty much you work with. Everybody wants to go home at the end of the day. Nobody wants to go home with a bashed in head, or even worse, maybe even death in that situation. So I feel like the thing that I discovered throughout the scenarios is how to do your job efficiently, and what pretty much corrections officers face on a daily basis. The thing that I was taught about the big ideas you discovered while working through scenarios is what it's like to be like an inmate coming from that type of situation, like minimum security, for instance. They kind of have a light at the end of the tunnel, where max might not have a light at the end of the tunnel, and they don't get that chance to really go back to their family. So I feel like coming from a maximum kind of standpoint, I believe that they some of them just, I don't know, I could never imagine not being able to go home to my family, or to be locked up for pretty much the rest of my life. So I just learned about like where those people maybe come from and they why they're there for the rest of their lives. I couldn't imagine being locked up for the rest of my life. For the essential questions that the scenarios answer for me and how is, like I said earlier in the video, just coming from an inmate standpoint and kind of like seeing what maybe caused them to do that, or just being locked up for for that. I just feel like for the essential questions, it's just pretty much where it comes across the line for like a inmate and a staff member. I mean, both of them, obviously the inmates don't want to be there, but it's kind of your job to keep them safe. Like I said earlier in this video, it all comes down to keeping yourself safe, the inmates safe, and I just feel like the one essential questions that I learned was doing your job ethically and efficiently. I feel like everybody should follow that ethic code because nobody is above the law. Inmates aren't above the law, and obviously corrections officers and even police officers aren't above the law. So I just think it's all comes down to ethics and how you kind of carry yourself in the corrections field, even for police officers for that matter. The one that I chose to kind of tell you guys about was my scenario day 2 about patting down the inmates and stuff. I just kind of coming from a minimum, medium, and maximum security, we would kind of do the same things where we would just pat them down, make sure they're shackled. We don't want any contraband coming into the prison. Then we would want to show them that we're in charge, but not like be a total, a-hole about it, and just say that we're in here to keep everybody safe, and we're gonna make a name for ourselves if we have to. We'll put the cuffs on you. We'll pretty much just kind of take you to the ground if you're acting up or being belligerent. Like I said earlier in this video, ethical behavior is huge here because if you do not act in an ethical way, it could get you fired. If you don't take ethics into your job, you could be setting yourself up for failure, and even worse, it could mean all your work could be gone from not acting ethically. So you can pretty much be fired if you don't do your job ethically and professionally. Now, when they kind of get in, we would make them go through a mental health professional, make sure that they're all there and they are not suffering from any mental health disorder that would require them medicine that would maybe give them a issue on the inside with officers by acting up or anything. And if we kind of learned that one of our new prisoners was in our facility by mistake, that would be a huge blow to us because they're locked up and they could have been locked up for 3 or 4 months, and then they realized that, oh, they didn't commit the crime. So that could look negatively on the criminal justice system because he or she was locked up wrongly and they didn't commit that crime. For the logbook that I would include in my logbook, I would write down everyone that arrived and what cell they're assigned to. I would put if any prisoners got into fights that day and tell the next people they can't be in the same cell anymore. I would also include a head count of how many people are on the floor, so if someone escapes on the next shift, it would not be my fault. Then finally, I would make sure everyone was doing what they were told to do. So like, let's say inmate 247 got in a fight with 257. Then I would put that in the logbook and say that those two are not allowed to be together in a cell and that they had to be separated because they got in a fight. Well, I had learned a lot in this course, and I look forward to what I learned in this course to take into my future as a CRJ profession. Thank you. It was a great course.